So we go right to the presentation of the NICOM Service Achievement Awards. So it was a fun night. Tonight we're going to be celebrating 5 people, Larry, but only 3 are here.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. I see 3.
No. Actually, it only looks like it's 2.
2.
Yeah, we got 1 Caparel and 1
Oh, yeah.
Rolly. Actually, it should be 2, but that's all right. Marsh's
Marsh's not here. You're right.
Joe.
Brennan's here. He's like half a March here or something. I don't know. So, okay, I'll give that one to you. Yeah. But we, as we always like to do, 30 years is a long time to do anything, but to serve a village in the capacity that Dennis has and Pete has and Jim and I don't have the list of the other 2 that aren't here tonight.
It was Joe Orsino and Billy Irwin.
Billy Irwin. So it's nice when I know all of them personally. It's a really long time, and one of the reasons that we were able to be so lean and still have a village that looks as good as it does, and we get compliments every time there's a snowfall, and every time there's recycling, and we get so many compliments from our DPW and our water department when they're out there working on water main breaks when it's usually 10 degrees out or about 100 degrees, so it's one or the other. I think I can count on my, was it now, 7 years on the board, on probably 2 fingers any complaints I've gotten, and if I listed all of the accolades that we've gotten from one storm, we'd be here for a half hour. So thank you for doing it for as long as you have. I do have a list. So, I do have a list, Larry. I apologize. But first I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to present the actual certificates to the people that did come tonight. So I guess I'll just do the 3 that aren't here first. Billy Irwin, 30 years of service. Joseph Archino, 30 years of service. And James Jim Marshke, 30 years of service. Thank you very much, and continue the good work. And then for the 2 that are here, we'll start with Dennis Monterilli, with 30 years of service. Do you mind coming up, Dennis? Take a picture, and I'll read you the... Yeah. So the New York State Conference of Mayors and Municipal Officials presents this 30-year certificate of public service to Dennis Monterilli, a recognition of 30 years of distinguished public service to your community. The New York State Conference of Mayors is pleased and honored to publicly acknowledge your dedication and commitment. Thank you, sir.
You can't afford it under the salary.
He's here. He's right in front of us. I apologize. Thanks.
Sorry.
Let's not skip Jim Marshke because he's sitting closest up front. Let's see him.
Can't see you.
Jim Marshke. You're stepping right up. You want to sit right here?
I thought you were like a Bill Fortune.
Yeah, well, you're not showing your toes. It's true. In recognition of 30 years of distinguished public service to your community, the New York State Conference of Mayors is pleased and honored to publicly acknowledge your dedication and commitment to Mr. James Marshke. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
We're actually in 36.
And then for 35, which I guess is actually 36, is over here?
Yeah, 36, who's counting it? A long time.
But again, in recognition of 35 years of distinguished public service to your community, the New York State Conference of Mayors is pleased and honored to publicly acknowledge your dedication and commitment. Peter Caparel. Thank you.
Well, it feels like it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Wow. I can't believe Joe Archino missed a meeting. And now for another exciting thing we do is promotion of police officer to sergeant. So we have to do the official resolution, which is kind of boring, and then we do the actual oath of office. Okay. So resolved to appoint Ryan Weiss to the position of sergeant at an annual salary of $115,519, effective September 20th, 2016, subject to a probationary period of not less than 12 weeks and not more than 52 weeks. I'll make the motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Congratulations. Special part of my job. All the flags. But if you want to raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Ryan Weiss,
I, Ryan Weiss,
of the Village of Irvington, County of Westchester, State of New York,
of the Village of Irvington, County of Westchester, State of New York,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of Police Sergeant
the duties of the office of Police Sergeant
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Mike, yeah, sure. You get to go home with your family. Everybody wants to be. Maybe James Marski wants to go there.
It's a scarf, it's all right.
You sure want the flag?
Well, see it.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, we like you.
Huh? Oh, the penny.
Whatever that's called.
Magic.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fine. You don't have to pin it all the way. You just say.
Okay.
That's my secret.
Oh, we don't get this?
Jim Marski does. I'm glad you showed up. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Congratulations.
I miss him.
Thank you.
Oh, right, thank you.
The rest that goes with it.
Good luck.
Oh, yeah, we need that back.
Yeah.
I'll get you a copy of it, don't worry about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Sarge.
Sorry.
Here.
You don't have to stay for this.
Dismiss you. Hey, Ryan, congratulations.
See you in 10 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's all. Good night, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, I've heard him more than once.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. So next, announcements. We have several announcements.
I have one other one too.
One is a public hearing on Thursday, October 6, 2016, at 7 p.m. in Village Hall to consider a local law establishing a school zone on Dow's Lane. Do you have to make a motion to?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion to have a public hearing on Tuesday, October 6th, to consider a local law establishing a school zone in Dow's Lane. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No motion necessary, but Rocktoberfest is on Saturday, October 15th at Matheson Park from 3 to 9 p.m. The Irvington Farmers Market 6th Annual Harvest Dinner is on Sunday, October 16th from 6 to 9 p.m. The O'Hara Nature Center Wine and Cheese Fundraiser is on Sunday, October 23rd from 4 to 6 p.m. at the O'Hara Nature Center. The Bob Spiesman Court rededication is at Scenic Hudson Park on September 24th. That's this coming Saturday. There's a clinic with the Westchester Knicks for children. I'm not exactly sure of the ages, but you can check the website. It might be on the flyer. But that's from 12 to 2 p.m. And then at 4 p.m., I think it's actually going to kick off at 4:30. There's the court rededication. My understanding is going to be some pretty cool guests there, including some old Knicks, maybe some current Knicks. But it's going to be a fun day. It's also a great way to honor, again, Robert Spiesman, who died, of course, on September 11th, 2001. The court has already been redone. It looks pretty amazing. It's in New York Knick colors, which is kind of odd for Irvington, but it looks pretty cool. So we're grateful for the partnership also with the Westchester Knicks, who, of course, play their home games tickets still available at Westchester County Center. So,
Could I add?
Connie, sure.
Yeah, you had this in your mayor's letter, actually, this Sunday, part of the Hudson River Valley Ramble. We have a guided walk that starts in front of Village Hall. It's called Meandering Among the Historic Millionaires' Mansions Walk. And this is the one that Sarah Kelsey goes from Village Hall up to the Aqueduct, then to Lyndhurst, and then back, and then for those hardy folks, actually south and back. So it's a great way not just to encourage visitors to come, but for people who live here. You hear learn a lot about things that you pass by on the Aqueduct, and if you don't remember, it's on the Friends of the Old Croton Aqueduct website too. But you go back to your old mayor's letters, and you'll see Brian's
There you go.
little shout out for it. That's this Sunday.
I think there's one other cool thing that's not on here is this Saturday, I believe, at the library, and I'll have to check the time, actually I have to check on Facebook. 2 local authors are going to...
It was already.
That was this last
It was
Saturday?
this Saturday.
So don't go
I
this
was there.
Saturday.
It
Don't
was
go this
great.
Saturday then.
Yes, Jennifer Orkin Lewis and Allison Gilbert.
Yeah, Gilbert.
They had, both of them have books and they work together and,
Yeah, one's an illustrator. And,
yes, Jennifer is the illustrator who actually did our little whimsical map of
Main Street.
Main Street, yeah.
Very
So
cool.
both local, and they were well-received and had books and sold books and autographed books, and it was a very nice event.
Well, excellent. I'm glad that was a good event that happened. It does still doesn't say on here the Junior Doug Next Youth Clinic. But you can check the website. We'll get you that information if you're interested in having your child sign up for that. Any other announcements? Mark's not here. He usually has one, but hopefully he's enjoying himself. Correspondence. First one is Katerina Zarieva.
Can I interrupt? It's actually me.
Sure,
I mean, so if you want me to speak, I'll speak.
that's fine. I won't butcher your last name either.
Yeah, well, it's actually Medina, the married name.
Oh, okay.
That'll be easier. I think you took that one from my email.
Oh, okay, sure.
So, but
Do you mind just
want me
coming up to
speak?
the
Yes.
the microphone? Sorry.
So, yes, I'm the one bothering you with the parking situation at the Arcelon-Hudson Metro Station. And so I have a few points to make and a few questions to ask. The first one would be about 6-hour parking spots, which are available on the south from the metro station. There are 30 of them, and what I learned from Larry, sorry I do not remember his last name, he replied to me.
That's me, bro.
Um,
We're good
So that most of them, for the most of them, the permits have already been issued, but a few of them are still left. And I just do not understand the purpose for those 6-hour spots because there are so many new residents of Irvington, all of which work in the city. So for us, these 6-hour spots, they just serve no purpose whatsoever. And I do not understand why are they there, whereas there is a huge waiting line for the to obtain a permit. Second point is metered spots. There are not that many of them, but I was wondering whether it's possible to turn at least some of them into permitted spots. Plus, another problem with the meters is that unless you're there at 7:15, you are out of luck. And even if you're lucky enough to get a spot, then there is a line to pay for the meter. Unlike at some other stations where you can go online and pay there, which is quite easy. You take the train and you pay there. Or very often we have a choice, missing the train and paying the ticket, get another ticket. So I feel like I'm paying tickets on every other day basis, honestly. The third point is, well, it's actually a question whether it would be possible to get back some of the parking spots from Ardsley House. I know that they were available 2 years ago, maybe even last year, but the Ardsley House took them from us. So I was wondering whether it's possible to get at least some of them. The next point is one permit for the family, because as new residents, like myself, we're just out of luck. I've been number 18 for 2 years right now, and to my knowledge, the line is not moving at all. So it is very unfair that we pay fair share in property taxes, plus we cannot argue that because we cannot hide our property values. Yet we cannot obtain even a single parking spot. And the last point is I was wondering whether it's possible to give the priority to the residents of that area of Irvington, because I know some people who live in some other areas of Irvington, specifically not too far from here, just on the other side of Broadway. Yet they were issued permits at our tiny Arsley-on-Hudson metro station versus here in Irvington, which is a very large station with plenty of parking spots. And perhaps it could be expanded versus at Arsley-on-Hudson, the situation is really bad, and the space is limited. So these are all of the points which I wanted to make, and I was wondering whether I could get any answers.
Yeah, I certainly, I prefer not to go through them all, step by step here, but I think there are a couple of suggestions that you made that we would definitely look into. Certainly the paying by phone is something we could look at. I do need to take another look at the breakout of the 6-hour spaces versus the permit spaces, even though they overlap. I mean, I don't think it's as clear as it can be. The reason that there's any 6-hour parking next is because of the tennis courts that are adjacent to those parking spaces. But I think we have to look at how that's broken out.
What tennis courts are those? Those are not public tennis courts, huh?
No, they're the Hudson House tennis courts.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see.
So-
So I guess if they're up for the people who live at Arsley House, then they can simply walk. None of them would drive.
I'm sorry, they're Ardsley Country Club. I
But-
apologize.
Well, it's Archie Country Club, and Hudson House also technically, well, they can definitely use the courts. It's co-owned by both. But this is a super complicated area because we hear from people that we should have more metered parking. We hear from people we should have only permanent parking. It seems to be for such a relatively few number of spaces.
I can comment on that from a couple of years ago before I was on the board and when I was taking the train, that there was an expansion of the number of metered parking spaces, and there was an insurrection
Yes.
where you got, I know, hate mail
Yeah.
for expanding the number of metered parking, and people were walking past empty metered spaces to go up the hill to get their cars. So,
And we also had the issue of the Hudson House took back, was it 2 spots, Larry?
No, they took back 10, I think it was
Oh,
10.
10 spots.
Yeah, and I'll be happy to go through all that. There are a lot of details, and there are a lot of moving parts with all that, and I'm happy to explain that, and I can kind of lay it out either in a phone call or in an email to you. But most definitely, the couple of suggestions that we can look at are the breakout of the 6-hour spaces and the paying online, to see if we can help that situation. Again, adjusting the metered spaces is going to be tricky. I don't think that there's much we can do about giving priority to area residents. That I think we already give priority to village-wide residents. We don't sell to outside the village. But I don't think we can narrow it down any further. But I mean, I think the majority of people that use that area are from the area anyway, that park at the Ardsley station.
Well, I know people that live
There's some. Yeah, no,
here,
I understand.
and they actually could have walked. But
Right.
And if it makes you feel better, there's no Irvington Public swimming pool.
no, it's just I know that there is one at the town of Greenberg.
Well,
that's veteran.
yes, and this is part of the complication of the way it is all organized. Okay, so the village of Irvington is part of the town of Greenberg. It's an incorporated village out of unincorporated Greenberg. The school district is bigger than the village. It includes East Irvington, which is part of the town of Greenberg. Those folks get to use the Greenberg pool. Village residents don't get to use the Greenberg pool. Village residents get to use village recreation. The East Irvington folks don't get to use village recreation, except
By
because the
recreation,
school
I
district,
mean like
our
dance
department,
sports?
the Matheson Park, our village recreation program, except some programs for kids, there's differential pricing whether you're in a village resident or a school district resident. So it's a fairly complicated, overlapping.
And someone from East Irvington contacts me once a month and asks, he tells me that there's plenty of open spots, and he thinks we should open it up to out-of-town residents at Ardsley as well. So there's a lot of interesting perceptions. We regularly check the spots to make sure that they are full, non-holiday weeks and things like that.
I'm sorry, are you talking about permanent spots or the metered spots?
Permanent spots, and the meter spots too. We try to make sure that there's not 10 empty spots for meters and things like that as well.
There is none available after 7:15, I can tell you
Yeah.
that.
Which makes it hard to reduce that number. That's the part of the issue, so. But I'll lay it all out for you so that you have it, so you understand it. And then, like I said, there's a few things we will look into for sure.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
We appreciate your
Thank you.
email. I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name.
It's okay, and it's easier to go with Medina.
Medina's easy, I can do that.
Can I ask you a question, Mary? In that area, just given the predominance of commuters who typically park there, what is the logic behind a 6-hour meter as opposed to like a 10-hour
There
meter?
are actually 6-hour parking spaces that you don't need a permit for, and they're adjacent to those tennis courts.
Okay.
It was done that way because when we expanded the parking lot, we used to only have the parking lot that was up the hill from there and adjacent to the station. And when we expanded, we wanted to put additional permit spaces, but we couldn't completely wipe out the ability for someone without a permit
Right.
to be able to park there for a relatively limited
Okay.
amount of time.
Okay.
The thing that I'm concerned about is that I think we have to be more limited in the area where the 6-hour applies. Because I do think that there is a propensity for some people from the Mercy campus to park there. And Mercy's been very good about policing that and getting their people not to park there. But it's a kind of an ongoing struggle. It's not, they stop it for a short time and then it restarts. So, but if we limit those number of spaces, it might help. So that's something we're going to look at for sure.
Thank you.
And that's actually the last group I hear from are people that play tennis, including my wife at Ardsley, because they get tickets every day because those spots are gone and they park on the street. So
It's
a tough area.
Yeah, it's a struggle.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The other correspondence we have is from Supervisor Feiner, Town of Greenberg. Another horrible motorcycle accident the third in recent weeks. A motorcyclist died on Tappan Zee Bridge on August 31st. The fatality came a short time after a motorcyclist died in an accident in Mount Pleasant. A short time before that, an accident motorcyclist was killed in front of Greenberg Town Hall. The 3 recent fatalities have received some local attention because the deceased are from our communities and were known by our neighbors. However, each year up to 5,000 people a year die in motorcycle-related accidents. Motorcycle accidents typically occur when motorcyclists are speeding or when there's a head-on collision with motorists who fail to spot the motorcycle. I'm organizing an effort with motorcycles to promote motorcycle safety. We want to encourage motorcyclists to drive safer. We also hope to encourage motorists to drive safe in the presence of motorcycles. If anyone in the community is interested in getting involved, please email me at pfeiner, F-E-I-N-E-R, at greenbergny.com. Thank you, Paul. I often worry about motorcyclists because they typically have their own set of rules, it seems. So good effort there. Public comment. Any questions on the consent agenda?
So looking back through it.
I don't think it's anything extravagant.
No. Geneva, New York. Doing time. No, I'm sure it's beautiful. Thank you. Have a good night. So if there aren't any questions, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Removal of an Irvington Fire Company member. Resolved to remove Jake Bernard as a member of the Irvington Fire Company. I'll make the motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you for your service, Jake. Authorization to approve change order number 1 for the Irvington Town Hall Fire Alarm System, project number 2016-14.
So these changes are pretty straightforward, but the fire alarm company, in going through the building as they've been installing it, identified some areas where they felt didn't meet the most current codes. Our designer did the design actually 2 years ago, so there were a few things that were out of date, and that's what this change order reflects. So this is simply to meet code compliance and not anything, and we have money in the budget, by the way. So.
Any questions on that? Resolved to approve change order number 1 in the amount of $17,953 for added devices required per code installed at Irvington Town Hall, and to authorize the village administrator to execute and said change order. I'll make a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Award of contract for lighting technology upgrade. I think this is a review.
This was a rebid, yeah. There was some discrepancy in the low bidder from the last time we bid this, and so we clarified a few things in the documents, rebid it in a fairly short window, and we have a low bidder that we're satisfied is bidding on the right project.
Yeah, this was looks like the same person won, it just.
Yeah, which we expected, but it's understandable. We, put everything out there equal for everyone.
Could you just remind me, the lighting technology upgrade, what lighting is this?
We're converting basically all or anything that we can convert from either fluorescent or incandescent in some cases to LED. Interior.
This is
buildings.
interior?
Interior buildings, yes.
Okay, separate from the other outdoor
Yes.
LED. Okay, interior lighting upgrade.
Yes.
Whereas sealed bids were received and opened on September 14, 2016 at 11 a.m. in Village Hall as follows: Morbido Electric, base bid $62,000, add alternative number 1, $17,500 for a total amount of $79,500. Consolidated Hudson Electric, $64,005, alternate of $28,061 for a total of $92,066. And Tri-State Electric, $98,100 on the base, $41,000 on the alternate for a total of $139,100. Whereas the village administrator reviewed the bid submitted and determined that the lowest bidder is in order and responsive to the specifications, now therefore be it resolved to award contract 2016-15 for the lighting technology upgrade project, amount of $79,500 to Morbido Electric, and to authorize the village administrator to execute said contract. I'll make a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Change order.
And
number
I
one.
would point out just one quick thing on that change order that you just approved. I'm sorry, on that bid you just approved. There was a fourth bid that was received. It was received late. We didn't formally accept it, but it would have been in third place for what it's worth. But anyway, I just wanted you to know that.
If it was first place, maybe we would have had the rules.
Well, if it's first place, maybe we would rebid it again. Who knows?
Change order number 1 for contract 2016-18 to joint paving.
Yeah. So this is not a surprise change order, just so you know. The numbers look big, but when we do a bid like this, we put down an estimated area that we plan to pave with estimated quantities so that the bidder knows what they're bidding on. But we knew after the bid specs went out that we felt we could do an additional area on Harriman, and all within the existing budget that we have. It's a combination budget of capital money that the board allowed us to borrow, I believe, this year, but also some carryover money from CHIPS, from state funds, from I think the last 2 years. So we've been kind of accumulating this to get this project done. So this all falls within budget. These are additional quantities that we put in place, so it's not oops, we made a mistake. We decided to pave more of an area to use up all of our budget. So, and there were different quantities than what was in the original estimate. That's all.
So,
We did Harriman Road, as you know.
has there been work on Harriman recently already? No?
For what?
For paving or for improvements of some sort?
We did. I'm sorry.
I thought that Harriman Road had been closed because of some things that were being done to it just recently. No?
The paving was done in August.
And is that about this?
Yeah.
This is this?
Yeah.
So recent is August.
Yeah.
I go with recent as August.
Yeah,
Okay.
the whole road was repaved.
So it's done?
Yeah.
Okay. I
And-
thought it
and
was like
what
coming in the
happens
future.
What happens in a unit price contract like this, where the contractor bids a certain dollar amount per ton of asphalt installed, is that at the end of it, you have a reconciliation with what you originally expected to install with what you actually installed. And I'm telling you, we did a longer area because we could afford it based upon the bid prices that we received. So the quantities were higher than what we had originally estimated in the original contract, that's all.
In our original amount, we thought it was about 250,000.
It was,
245, so.
yeah, it was in the upper 100s, 180 or something, now it's, you're adding
183.
60,000 some odd.
There it is, yeah, on the next page.
Yep. So,
Okay.
that's it.
Resolved to approve a change order for contract 2016-18 joint paving with ELQ Industries in the amount of $61,968.50, and authorize the village administrator to execute said change order. I'll make a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Volunteer appointment to the Community Advisory Board. We had a presentation last week, which was nice, and then maybe that spurred some interest. I don't think so.
They were in the works already.
Yeah. Resolved to appoint Meredith Keltz as a member of the Community Advisory Board for a term to expire December 2016. I'll make the motion. Can I have a second?
I mean, second.
Yeah, we'll take anything. All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of an intermunicipal agreement with the Village of Sleepy Hollow for stormwater mapping services.
So the village, this is, I think, the fourth joint project that we've participated in to deal with stormwater mapping and other joint efforts that we've done with our neighbors and other communities around the county. The consortium, it's varied in terms of the number of municipalities and whatnot over the years, but this time around, the Village of Sleepy Hollow has been the lead municipality in all of these, and they submitted for I believe, a DEC grant that they were able to obtain, and it will allow all of the municipalities to map out not just where their catch basins are, which we already know on a map, but now to connect the dots between those catch basins so we know where the underground storm drains actually run and how the water flows. So if water goes into a catch basin outside of Village Hall, where does that go from there? And that's important for tracking down when there's problems and also being able to analyze things for whether they're undersized and maybe need to be expanded and whatnot. So it's very important information, and it's a project that we could have done on our own, but has been typically done on a joint basis, and the DEC has recognized that by awarding this grant. Our contribution to this, there is a match. The match is with in-kind services, so on the day or days when they come out and do some field surveying to see where the lines are, they will be accompanied by a DPW employee to, help their way around the village. And and I'll be administering the grant in some respects for the village, so there'll be some of my services. So whatever time is spent on this will be used as our match. So it's not an actual cash outlay. So it's a no-brainer, to be honest with you.
We like intermunicipal.
Yeah, no, it's good.
This is a big one. Lots of interest there.
Yeah, no, it's a
Lots of
the whole county,
municipals.
really. I mean,
Yeah. Whereas the Village of Sleepy Hollow, as lead agency, applied for was approved for a stormwater quality improvement project grant, in the amount of $343,854 from New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for stormwater mapping services on behalf of the Stormwater Consortium. And whereas the members of the consortium have previously agreed to participate in the consortium, and whereas the Village of Irvington is a member of that consortium and wishes to participate in the implementation phase of the project to further enhance the database mapping for stormwater infrastructure consistent with the requirements of New York State, now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Irvington hereby enters into intermunicipal agreement with the Village of Sleepy Hollow for the purpose of implementing the above referenced grant agreement with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and further resolved, the Village of Irvington hereby acknowledges that it must provide in-kind services as part of the grant, along with accompanying salary and benefit information in connection with those in-kind services to the Village of Sleepy Hollow in a timely manner, and further resolved to authorize the village administrator to execute said agreement. I will make a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There are a lot of villages on here.
Yeah.
yeah,
You almost can't think of one that's not on there, right? Very true. The next one is approval of a contract with Headline Booking Group for musical services related to Rocktoberfest. What we have in front of us is actually is the agreement for our headliner, which is a group called Tramps Like Us. It's always so odd to talk about these things in a work meeting, but, which of course is from the song Born to Run. I would maybe call myself something different, but they call themselves Tramps. But they're actually very well known. They estimate that they'll bring 500 to 1,000 people here themselves. I mean, again, that's their manager saying that, but they did play a lot of the Super Bowl parties when the Super Bowl was in New Jersey. It was February 2015. They're probably the biggest, best-known Bruce Springsteen cover band, and there's actually quite a few. Obviously, Bruce just finished his tour. He was just on, I think, 60 Minutes, and he was on Good Morning, CBS This Morning, so he's everywhere. So it's kind of a timely one, we thought. Unfortunately, with that popularity comes a price. So while we had a U2 cover band for about $3,500, these guys are about $9,000. But we already have a large sponsor for about half of it. And if they really do deliver around their 500 to 1,000, even if it's a middle called 750, and they give kind of $15, or most people give 20, it'll more than cover the cost. So turns out that they're Bruce Springsteen. Guy named Mark, he lives in Tarrytown, so they did give us a break on the cost, but it was still more than I wanted to pay. But we think it's worth it for kind of elevating the quality of of Rocktoberfest a little bit. So hopefully someone a little better known gets a little more exposure out there.
Well, there's some rain arrangement on this?
We did. One thing that's not in this contract, but we'll add it to the final version, is they agreed to the rain date, which is Sunday the 16th. So that was the big open item. There's one more before I sign it and send it back. They had a rider that basically was their requirements for, I guess, all the electronics and sound and lighting and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Well, the two cases of water are fine, but the sound equipment and some of the other equipment that they wanted seems a little excessive. So I don't know anything about it. So we're actually having Ray Orvetsky, who's our professional sound man, see if he can negotiate them down on that. So before we sign anything, we'll get that clarified, and we will write in the rain date of the 16th. So we're kind of pending those things, I guess is what we could say, pending changes or as amended.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how,
Yeah.
can't really say, because you reviewed what you had in front of you, but then,
Yeah, I had
yeah.
some comments.
We can say pending. We can still say pending.
Why don't we
your
say
review.
subject to the satisfactory resolution?
Yeah, but
You're not here, I know.
I'm glad,
I
and
know,
I don't
no,
want to be dealing with the emails.
No.
I'm on my.
Yeah. No,
Well, then,
Yeah.
then have this board authorize the mayor to work out those outstanding issues. That's, I mean, it's the only, right?
Yeah, and I think they're
There won't be
clear.
legal issues.
They're not really.
Yeah, you know what my,
they're
you know
not
what
legal
my
issues,
issues
yeah.
are, you
Yeah.
work them out.
They're
and-
logistical issues, they're not legal issues.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
why don't, if, as long as the board feels comfortable, because you're in the middle of it, so I
Yeah.
don't know if we can change that.
Yeah. that's fine.
Is that all right?
And, I mean, do you be in touch with Larry about this and go back and forth, or just take it on yourself to?
I mean, I think it's going to be. I think there's like three. There's actually only two issues. There's the rain date, which is the big one. That they said, screw it, you don't get your money back if it rains. So we have that resolved already. And the second one is just if we can talk them down. And I think that's not even going to be. That's just going to be kind of between the kind of our sound person and them.
And then the other thing was that you've had to pay a deposit.
Yeah.
And that I think you need agreement from them that if they don't come for some reason, it's their own reason. that you
Right,
get
they
the
agree to that
deposit
as well.
back. They agreed to
Yeah,
that.
if it's their fault, then they said it's fine. Yeah,
Those were the,
yeah that's right. That was the other one. Right.
okay.
But yeah, those are the three. And the one, the sound thing, I think we'll probably figure that out tomorrow. And if we have to pay for the extra stuff, we have to pay for the extra stuff. But
Do they make any kind of guarantee, Brian? So, I mean, as part of their fee that, or as part of the contract that they'll actually deliver X number of people, or?
we didn't do that. We did have an agreement that they would promote the event on their website and things
Okay.
like that. So
Okay.
and they actually were looking to get more information about our event today, so they can start promoting it now. So and it'd be hard to track who came because it's them and who came for
Right.
the beer.
Okay.
They have a certain number of people in the group, and they all agree to come, or only one, is
No,
it
that's-
one of five or two of five, and they count it?
I think they almost have 10 people, but they agree to bring the whole band. I mean, it might not be the same saxophone player, but they have the whole group. So it's like 9 or 10 people. So they try to be like the East Street Band. So
I've heard them play. I think they may have even
they
played
played
at
Dobbs Ferry.
Very Fast last year.
Yeah,
They rock, literally.
yeah, they're good. That's Dobbs Ferry. They actually had, is it Crossroads paid for them, I think. So they didn't have all the details on their contract. So I tried to steal their ideas.
So, Brian, you are totally comfortable with this and working out the details, and I'll go along with it. It's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders.
Yeah, well, I figure I have to raise all the, I have to do all the fundraising for it anyway, right? So, but no, I think it's, I don't have, once the rain day was the thing that worried me, because if it rained and we decided to call it off and they said, well, tough ticket, we get half our money and we don't come now, that didn't seem right. So I think once that was resolved, I felt pretty good about it. So.
And they've somehow written it in, or it's
Right,
not written in?
It's going to be written in.
Okay.
That was just breaking news.
That was
Breaking
that
news.
was at like 4 o'clock this afternoon.
All right.
So, resolved to approve a contract with Headline Booking Group in the amount of $9,000 for musical services related to Rocktoberfest, and authorize the mayor to execute said contract with said amendments.
Subject
To resolution of open items.
Outstanding.
outstanding issues, yes.
I'll make the motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Good luck.
Thank you. This could be good weather. Reports of boards, standing committees, and officers. Trustee liaison reports.
No more.
No more.
All right, so for the Rec and Parks Department, the Rec and Parks office is open until 7 p.m. this Wednesday. RPAC is meeting Wednesday night at 7:30 in the Rec Center on Main Street. As the mayor mentioned before, this Saturday, the 24th, is the grand reopening of the Bob Sweezen basketball court from 12 to 2 p.m. This Saturday, the Rec and Parks Department and FACE will be sponsoring a team trip, the Adventure Park at the Discovery Museum. It includes high ropes courses, zip lines, and more. 24 Irvington teams will be attending the trip, and Angela Thornton has information if you have further questions. CAB, I ask Executive Board is meeting next Thursday, the 29th at 8 a.m. in the Senior Center. On Wednesday, October 5th, again, as was mentioned before, Irvington Woods Committee is hosting their wine and cheese fundraiser. Oktoberfest on the 15th sounds like it's going to be awesome. The Irvington Hayride is scheduled for Saturday, October 22nd from 6 to 8:30 p.m. in Matheson Park. Halloween Parade sponsored by the Irvington Fire Company and the Rec and Parks Department has been scheduled for Sunday, October 30th. Parade begins at 3 p.m. at Immaculate Conception and ends in the parking lot of Main Street School. And the Woods Committee and RPAC both would like to remind residents that dogs must be on leash while on the Irvington trails, please. That's it.
Thank you very much. Connie?
Okay, so I met with the Housing Committee on Tuesday the 13th. They're meeting again October 5th. I'll have some details on a very exciting program that they're planning. I'd just like to get a little more communication about it nailed down before I make that announcement. The Irvington Historic District met on Thursday the 15th. I was meeting with them, and they will be coming back to our board sometime in October. I think we'll have a date soon decided. As you recall, they were going to work on the tweaks for the Historic District Guide document that you heard about. Was it last week, a week and a half ago? So they'll be coming back. Right.
A month ago.
A month ago. I'm sorry, I think August was yesterday, I think. That's all right, it's the cataract surgeries. Farmers Market, I think you made an announcement about their,
Yes.
yes, you did.
You can do that if you want.
Yeah, the theater has a full schedule of events in October. There are many, many programs. There was a lovely event this past weekend. It was the Community Sing-Along. You missed it.
It was good. Tune up. You're willing to
It was cute. I went. And I also went to an event at Mary Jane Shimsky's office in my role as the tourism history person. There's a group called Revolutionary Westchester 250. So, there's a lot of Revolutionary War stuff that Irvington is and other places in Westchester are. And if you want to plan 10 years forward, which is what this group is doing, they're planning for the 250th anniversary of the Revolutionary War. So these were goals and strategy. They were trying to get a steering committee. You have to figure you're going to be here and you're still going to be around in 10 years. So I wasn't sure I should sign up for the steering committee. I feel fine. But there are quite a few interesting things. We all know about the Odell Tavern, and there are a ton of things involving the obviously the Amy Sherwood and Pat Ryan, and there are a lot of people, of course, who will be involved with this. So keep in touch over the next 10 years, and I'll let you know what's happening.
Report back.
What?
You'll report back.
I'll report back before 10 years is up.
I'll put it on the action items list.
Please do. Right. This is why my sense of timing gets off. I can't remember what was August, but I can plan for 10 years down the road. Okay. Sorry, to ramble. Okay.
Yes.
The highway department's continuing the Hudson View Park curb replacement and drainage. They're repairing sinkholes, repaired the sidewalk on Dow's Lane, which is particularly significant, I think, to remember how these two departments, water and highway, connect to other goals that we want to accomplish, like safe schools, walking to schools, and so on. So the sidewalk on Dow's Lane was repaired, and they assisted with the drainage problem at the Mazzaros Field, also delivering topsoil for the field replacement project, continuing to water newly planted trees and replacement grass, which is extremely important since I have 3 dead shrubs, obviously because I neglected to continue to water them, filling potholes, installing new signs and painting new crosswalks, and cleaning catch basins. The water department, again, very important in terms of some of the things we've been talking about, is lead and copper sampling is completed, and the report was submitted to the Westchester County Department of Health. Ongoing reading water meetings, fall maintenance, painting fire hydrants, marking manholes and water valves, assisting the school district by jetting sewer line, flushing fire hydrants, and meter transmitter upgrade is 98%. One other thing I wanted to mention, it's not a report, but I'm hoping people saw the New York Times editorial today. They came out very much opposing the plan to dock tankers in the Hudson, along the Hudson River in the affected communities. We, as well as our neighboring communities, came out really requesting another look at that, and the Times, it's nice to know they're on our side. In terms of the library, folks, check their website. They have a ton of activities all the time, and they're very happy to have people visit their website and look at the whole range of programs.
Yeah, I think people can also sign up to get the library notices. Some people get, just recreation notices or just this notice, but they actually have a way to you can get library notices too. So, but yes, they have
there's lots of good things, and it's good to know the week before.
Yeah. I did post it on Facebook like 12 times. If you're done, I actually have one other thing. I wanted to mention that due to the Jewish holidays this year, the October schedule is one of those flush the format kind of things. The first board meeting is actually on a Thursday. That's the 6th of October. Our work session is also on a Thursday. That's the 13th of October. And then our next board meeting is on a Wednesday, which is the 19th. So there's no Mondays. There's a Wednesday, but it's actually a board meeting on a work session, and a work session on a Thursday, and a board meeting on a Thursday. So the 6th, the 13th, and the 19th are the key dates, but it's a little confusing, but we made it through. Next is the clerk treasurer. Actually, I skipped the administrator, but
That's okay.
we'll go outside of the room first.
I have a long list, so we'll get to you last.
Last week, our auditors were here visiting, doing their audit, and it was a busy week. They had 5 auditors working all 5 days, so I trust it was a very thorough audit. It went very smoothly, and so their field work is now complete and went very smoothly. No surprises.
5 people, 5 days. Wow.
That's a lot of auditing.
Oh.
We were pulling documents and cross-referencing all of our journal entries and bank reconciliations.
Good for you.
They kept us on our toes. But we were prepared. The thing is, a lot of the work is done, really, all of it's done before they arrive. So they're auditing then our books at that point.
Attorney?
Yeah, just to bring you up to date on the Gennaro project, which has a name now. Not Gennardo'ville, Dunham Hill. They call it Dunham Hill now. And it's been before the planning board for many months, almost since it came from this board. And just last Wednesday, the planning board issued a negative declaration on the process and issued just preliminary subdivision approval. That's just how the lots will be broken out. They need preliminary subdivision approval to go to the county to get the subdivision plan, and then they'll come back. So there's still issues to be resolved because the site plan review hasn't been granted, but the planning board, did get thorough reports from its engineers, from the traffic engineers, from the landscape consultants, and then just one other thing. If you recall, this board amended the law to allow for a bonus for reusing a building that the ARB finds of local historic significance, as long as whatever changes are made to the building won't impair the integrity of the house. And so they did, some months back, get the determination from the ARB that the house at 40 South Broadway, the Concern House, was of local historic significance. The plan originally had some changes to the house that would have bumped up the one-story part, so it would be all two-story. They did not get positive feedback from the ARB, and the ARB believed that would impair the historical integrity of the house, and so then the plan's been reworked, so they're leaving the house alone. The house won't change at all on the outside. And instead of having 2 two-bedroom units in there, they'll have 1 one-bedroom and 1 two-bedroom unit, and then they'll make another 2-bedroom in their other building. But anyway, so there's been a lot of progress made, and there's still details to be worked out, but the engineers, the landscape people, the transportation people all felt that the changes that could be made are fairly small, and that they could recommend, a negative declaration, which the board did the other day, and that was circulated. So the thing seems to be moving on schedule. Everybody's moving quickly on it, so thoroughly, but deliberately, but quickly.
Very good.
So,
Village Administrator.
very quickly, this past Friday, Chief Cerrone and I attended a tabletop exercise run by the county. It was an exercise to deal with an active shooter situation, and the room was filled with what I think was all the right people. It wasn't just law enforcement, it wasn't just emergency personnel. There were administrators there like myself, there were EMS and Con Edison, and the whole variety of people that could be brought into a situation like this. So it was really an eye-opener and fascinating. So that was Friday. Today I attended a brief meeting with folks from the new New York Bridge to talk about the possibility for a community benefits grant for the study of Route 9 from Sleepy Hollow to Hastings. That's the so-called Route 9 corridor that we've been talking about. And so we got a lot of good feedback from them, and we'll be submitting, Irvington, on behalf of the consortium of 5 villages, will be submitting an application, we hope as early as the end of this week. So we're looking for some positive results there, so we'll see. That's it.
Public comment?
I added a few extra words just to hit 8 o'clock.
Yeah, perfect.
Whoa.
Review of action items?
Yes, we have one action item. I need to get back to Ms. Medina on the various points that she made.
I just wanted to add, Larry, I was in Yonkers last Friday, and sure enough, you can pay. You don't have to feed the meters to quarters anymore. You can
There
pay.
may very well be a feature of what we have. I mean, we have a mainstream parking machine,
Okay.
so it's not old technology. It's been there for a couple of years,
Right.
but
I believe it has the
I have
ability
zero,
to
so
be
we'll
adapted.
look into it for sure. Yeah, definitely.
I'll make a motion to adjourn to executive session regarding a consulting contract. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Good night, Doc.